So what car do you drive?
I have an E46 M3, so it's a 2003 M version of the 3 Series BMW.
Okay. And why did you decide to buy that car?
I bought a car mainly to take to the track to learn to do ADS, Advanced Driving School.
Okay.
So I belong to the BMW club. It's called Trillium here in Ontario.
Okay.
And they offer driver training, and I wanted to buy a car that I could go with a couple of my friends that did driver training. I wanted to do it a little bit on a budget, so I was able to find this car, a little older. It's in very good shape, and the other thing that I was looking for is paddle shift. So BMW is one of the first cars that came out with paddle shift way back in 2003. It's called SMG, serial manual gearbox. So changing gears, you just pull a paddle and away you go.
Awesome.
And that way I don't have to learn how to heel toe, which is very difficult with a manual.
So the M3 isn't a supercar, is it?
No, it's not. By previous definitions, or even the definition of today of what a supercar is, it has never had enough horsepower. Even now it doesn't have enough horsepower. The older, what people used to refer to as a supercar, one of the criteria is it had to have more than 500 horsepower. So like the GTR or the GT3, the Porsche 911 GT3, those kinds of cars have more horsepower much more horsepower than M3s have. Okay. Even the new M3s don't have 500 horsepower.
What do you think a modern day supercar would be?
So my understanding of what people are defining supercars as now, much higher horsepower than 500. You know, you've got cars that are 700. Pagani Huayra, for instance, is I think it's 1,000 horsepower. Or something.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Those are what people are referring to as supercars now, and one of the things that makes them supercars is how rare they are. They're a luxury, some of them touring cars, like some of them aren't even necessarily, they're usually 2 doors, but some of them aren't even necessarily a small sports car. They could be a large vehicle, a Grand Tour kind of car, and they would still be referred to as a supercar because of how rare they are, how limited the production was, and also the horsepower. Things like Tesla and things like that, some of those cars are referred to as supercars, and they're electric. It's quite. We're living in a really interesting time when it comes to cars, because electric cars are for real. Like, people are driving them. When I go to the track, there's at Mossport, there is an i8, a BMW i8 that participates.
Wow.
And he's there, and he drives around the track all day long, and he doesn't have it plugged in between, so it's doing all right. And there's that guy, and then I've seen his girlfriend's driving a Ferrari right next to him. So one of the newer Ferraris. So you see all kinds of cars there, and a lot are referred to would be classified as supercars. Got a couple of buddies that drive cars. One of them drives an older Subaru similar to mine. Never was the ST, even the STI his is an STI.
Yeah.
It's not a supercar. It never was. It didn't have the horsepower, but it's still a lot of fun to drive on the track. But then you have these other cars that are much faster, McLarens, things like that. They're really interesting. And they're supercars because they're rare and they're fast.
Yeah. What sort of technologies do you think the new supercars have compared to older cars?
Well, it's interesting. Technology overall. I mean, obviously you've got electric and what that brings. And the thing about electric cars is the electric motors are very, very torquey. And that's what people refer to horsepower. It's not really horsepower that horsepower plays a part, but it's the torque. That's so. What you look for in a car is a car that's got high horsepower, but also has high torque, because that's the pickup. That's how it takes off. Yeah. And these electric cars have incredible torque. So a lot of different technologies regarding tires and brakes, and they have ceramic brakes now on street cars. It's not just race cars. That's where a lot of it is born. But a lot of the stuff that is on race cars, paddle shift, that all originated on the track. They wanted quicker paddle shifting, double clutches.
Yeah.
You know, everybody now, when you hear my car shift, it sounds like somebody manually shifting. When you hear a new BMW shift, it's a blip. It's just, it's so instantaneous because it's got a double clutch. So all of that stuff plays into the supercar, but also in just fast cars and fun cars, you know, cars that are really quite remarkable. Size makes a difference. Like, you know, you see, I've got a friend that's got a Mercedes GT, it's the S version, and it's a big car, but it handles like a small car. It's incredible how much control it has.
If money was no object, what car would you buy?
I would not stop at one car. That's probably the worst. I love cars, all kinds of cars. I have a bunch of friends that have a lot of different, very fun cars, and we take a trip every year somewhere in the States. We've been to Lake Placid one year, Watkins Glen another year, you know, places like that where you can get some really fun sort of back road driving. And we're all very careful and considerate, and we take our time. We follow each other and we trade cars. And I get an opportunity to drive all these amazing cars, and they get an opportunity to drive mine. And I have learned from that every car has its own personality. It's quite amazing. So we have, ranging in value, my car would be now pretty low value, but even as a new car, it was fairly expensive. It was around $70,000, probably brand new, many years ago now. But I have a friend that brings his Abarth. It's a Fiat 500 Abarth. Everybody loves driving that car because it's like driving a go-kart. It's so much fun. And then on the other hand, I have a friend who has a Mercedes GTS. So, you know, that's, what is that, a $300,000 car? I'm sort of ballparking the cost, but you can see the vast difference in the cost of those two cars, and they're both fun to drive.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, I love my BMW, and I love that particular model, the E46. I just think it looks spectacular and will always look good. I'd love to have a Miata. I don't know why. But it would have to be an old one. I don't really want a new one. I just love the whole idea of the old sort of. I much prefer sort of a British ragtop, maybe a TR6. But the Miata just seems like it's more reliable and more, you know, accessible and that sort of thing. So I've thought I wouldn't mind having that. I would love to have a GT3 because they're just an amazing car to drive.
Yeah.
But I would never take that on a long trip because they're a bit uncomfortable after a while. And they're loud inside, you know, because they strip them down. I've never really wanted exotics. Like, I've never been all that interested in Ferrari or Lamborghini. I'd love to drive one, but I think the R8 is one of the most beautiful cars I've ever seen. It's just, I don't know what it is about it. I just really like it. I've had the opportunity to drive a few different cars. I'd love to have like an old 60s muscle car, just for fun. But at the same time, I've driven some of these. Like, I've driven the newer Mustang, with the Shelby, the really fast one, and it's a crazy car. It scared me. To get the power down to the ground, it's just way too overpowered. I'd want to have one, but I wouldn't really drive it because it scares me, you know. Like, so it would be. This is the thing though, is every car has got its own personality.
Yeah.
One of the guys brings a Corvette on this, and it just, you know, you get out of that, you just want to shoot a shotgun, you know. It just feels like it's a very different car. And then you get out of the Mercedes, and you know, you want to have a scotch and cigar, you know. They're different cars. So it's I like cars. I like them. I like all different cars. I've had 4x4s as well, which I really enjoyed. Had a Jeep with a 7-inch lift in it at one time, and it just off-roading is so much fun. You know, I'd love to own one of the original Hummers. You know, I just think it's an amazing looking vehicle and performs so incredibly. So I guess this is the thing, is that for me, I'd want all kinds of cars because I see the beauty in all of them, and I see the fun and the excitement in driving all of them. And that's the other thing is I would never want to have a car that I just had sitting in my driveway or sitting in a garage somewhere, because they're made to be driven.
Exactly.
They're not made to be that's my opinion. But there's lots of guys that collect cars, and they collect them to not drive them and to just have them appreciate in value. I would do that with wine. I would do that with that sort of thing, but I would never do that with a car.